Varun and Mitra are same-sex couple that gave birth to Vashisht and, we can laugh when it suits us, but it's Vashisht and Agastya. Vishnu fell in love with, Shiva fell in love with Vishnu, and that union as Mohini gave birth to Ayyappa, which is the Sabrimala deity, which is such a huge fight in the public space.
Judiciary has the power but not the expertise. That's not my position. My very clear position is neither do they have the power nor do they have the expertise on the subject is my very clear position.
So the Hindu religion is like an ocean in which there are seas and rivers and ponds and multitudes. So who's going to decide which is religious? You said brothers and sisters should not be in a relationship, hopefully. But in Kerala and elsewhere, the uncle is perfectly legitimate.
On the one hand, we are being accused of fetishizing the legislature. Have there been no instances?
That was, as a
No,
good
no, I have to make
that
myself.
was a rhetorical question.
No, I have to make.
That's a submit.
No,
That's
there's a point here. There's a point here
that's
to be
not a
made here.
judicial
When
question.
we actually make the point that the judiciary makes no mistakes, who came out with the first decision on the NAS Foundation?
Hindu civilization has had absolutely no problem with any color or any facet of the human experience.
My entire position has been it's not just about this particular issue. If tomorrow every other disgruntled litigant on issues which are close to their heart or causes which are close to their heart chooses to use the court to get the job done and completely relegates the legislature to the margins, what exactly is this democracy that you're actually talking about?
First of all, you said that there's a religious issue at stake. Right. Now, in your books, you have been arguing that we have to decolonize our brain. We have to go with our civilizational ethos. We've been showing just a few of them. But if you go even with the Hindu civilizational ethos, Hindu civilization has had absolutely no problem with any color or any facet of the human experience. Right. In fact, Varun and Mitra are same-sex couple that gave birth to Vashisht and, we can laugh when it suits us, but it's Vashisht and Agastya. Vishnu fell in love with, Shiva fell in love with Vishnu, and that union as Mohini gave birth to Ayyappa, which is the Sabrimala deity, which is such a huge fight in the public space.
Right.
You have references in the Kama Sutra to lesbian couples that raise children together.
Right.
And you can go to Khajuraho, you can go to other texts. Khajuraho, there's a beautiful, I wanted to show it, but I was a bit edgy about it. But please go Google it. There's this amazing, beautiful image of women making love on the frieze of the Khajuraho temple. Right. So when you say it's religious, again, I'll quote back to you. You said the Hindu religion is like an ocean in which there are seas and rivers and ponds and multitudes. So who's going to decide which is religious? You said brothers and sisters should not be in a relationship, hopefully. But in Kerala and elsewhere, the uncle is perfectly legitimate as a marriage partner. In the north, that would be scandal. So do you agree that you are walking a very slippery slope? You said where should the red lines be?
Right.
Who will be the arbiter of that?
Okay. So there are 3 levels of responses here. I'm very happy with the examples you just quoted. First, I think Mr. Kirpal has misunderstood my point. Let me clarify this. I am never going to admit that the judiciary has the power but not the expertise. That's not my position. My very clear position is neither do they have the power nor do they have the expertise on the subject is my very clear position. I am not making a concession here at all. It's surprising that a court which yields to a legislative policy or executive policy on taxation, on defense-related issues, on all these issues, if this court or let's say the judiciary is blessed with all the wisdom that we impute to it, what happened in 75 to 77? These were instances where on the one hand, we are being accused of fetishizing the legislature. Have there been no instances?
That was, as a
No,
good
I have to make
that
myself.
was a rhetorical question.
No, I have to
That's
make.
a submit.
No,
That's
there's a point here. There's a point here
that's
to be
not a
made here.
judicial
When
question.
we actually make the point that the judiciary makes no mistakes, who came out with the first decision on the NAS Foundation? It is the product of advocacy between 2013 and 2019 that you were able to change hearts and minds even with respect to Section 377. And I am the one who is asking you to put more faith in your advocacy. Second, are we saying that a court makes no mistakes? There have been instances where fundamental rights, which were otherwise meant to be protected, have been suspended by the very same court. When they were asked to bend, they crawled is the very same language that's been used previously when it comes to even rights such as habeas corpus. So I don't think we should actually be making these statements with respect to the fact that the judiciary makes no mistakes or the judiciary has absolutely no subject which is beyond the scope of its remit or expertise. Of course there are. Now coming to the question of IP or any of these subjects, these are under very specific legislations where they have the power to do so. The question when it comes to this question is, this issue is whether they have the power. That itself is the issue.
Sai, may I step in here?
Yes.
Because I don't want to go down these too many of the tertiary parts. Let's stick to the core, which is
Right.
about how does society change,
Right,
you know?
right.
Let me put back to you, and here maybe I'm presuming, but I feel both of you are not, you're saying, does the courts never make a mistake? I don't think that's Saurav's position. That can
Right.
never be anybody's position. I mean, it's the Supreme Court that actually overturned the Delhi High Court
Right.
ruling on 377. I mean, it was
Right.
that backward, and
Right.
I'll use that word.
Right.
But let me come back to something which I think is fundamentally at stake here,
Right.
which is the fundamental rights of individuals. And here again, I would pose to you, is there a huge gap in your understanding of a democracy and his? And I'll ask him as well. You say that no individual's rights should supersede the rights of a community. That is not our constitutional position.
I'm not sure where you're getting this position from.
Sorry?
I'm not sure where you're getting this position from.
There's a
I'm
bit
not sure where you're getting this position from.
where I'm hearing that position
Yes.
from. It could be wrongly reported on Google, so forgive me. But here, the fundamental right is that two people in love want to marry. And Article 14, 15, 19, and 21, as we've said,
Right.
says that there will be no discrimination on people's rights insofar as their gender, caste, status, money, sex, identity, right? So this is something so fundamental. This is not an expertise issue. It's not a jurisdiction issue. A small group of people or a large group of people feel that their fundamental rights are not being granted to them, and it is not impinging on anyone else. Why is there resistance?
Okay,
You haven't
there are two
answered
issues.
that.
There are two aspects. First, let's go to the Hindu example. Should I bring it up? Okay. It's convenient that we choose to bring about the liberality of Hinduism when it suits us, and then Hinduism becomes the subject of certain other discussions when caste is the issue. But anyways, we'll come back to the point. The point is this. I don't think we understand the role of the judiciary in a constitutional democracy, its interplay with the legislature or its interplay with the society in the first place. You're basically telling me that with respect to the creation of a right, this is not recognition of a right, this is also the creation of a particular right.
How? It's their recognition of a right.
Marriage
Their right to
is
marry.
not just, marriage at the end of the day has to be recognized by law. You can choose to call yourself married. Unless and until the law recognizes it in some form, it has absolutely no sanctity. So the question is about legal recognition. If it is about legal recognition, this is primarily within the remit of the legislature. Your entire argument has been, I choose to proceed on the basis that the bulk of the majority is against my position. I will not make any further efforts in trying to convince them otherwise. I have not set the ball rolling on the legislature. I don't intend to. I'd rather use the judiciary to get the job done. My entire position has been, it's not just about this particular issue. If tomorrow every other disgruntled litigant on issues which are close to their heart or causes which are close to their heart chooses to use the court to get the job done and completely relegates the legislature to the margins, what exactly is this democracy that you're actually talking about? If you're telling me that we need to protect the concept of a democracy, how is this democracy going to be protected if the legislature has absolutely no role in it? Where are members of the society going to get their say with respect to their concerns on this particular issue? Not every concern that has an opinion on this particular subject is necessarily homophobic or stands in the way of marriage. They want answers to certain questions. You are reducing this particular issue to its most, not simple form, its simplistic form to say, this is all about equality. Sorry, it's not just about equality. It is about creation of further rights. Because the bulk of the petitioners who are before the court are people who are asking for the right of adoption. And when they ask for these rights, there is a third party who is necessarily involved. There are institutions which have been created under the law for the protection of the rights of that particular third party who cannot speak for himself or herself. Are we saying that they don't need to be heard on this particular subject at all? On matters of science, on matters of taxation, on matters of even handwriting, court appoints experts. Are you telling me on such a serious issue, which talks about the creation of a social institution, not just an individual institution, the court doesn't need to hear experts? Ask yourself, in the 3 months or the 4 months or the 2 months that hearings took place before this court, which expert was heard by the court? What expert affidavits or opinions were sought by the court? Now, this is an institution which supposedly knows better than the legislature. If the legislature moots a certain proposal, there are parliamentary committees which are appointed. There are experts whose opinions are sought. Which expert opinion, other than the litigants' opinions, have been sought even in this matter by the members of the bench or this particular court? Ask yourself this question. Now, assuming for a moment,
May I draw him into it?
please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yes.
So, Saurabh, you want to take on some of those questions? First of all, there are two that I can zero in on. One is about judicial activism. And he's saying that, the judiciary just can't keep stepping in and overturning or usurping the right of parliament. Do you think that that's a valid argument? And number two, this, I don't necessarily want to go into the process and procedurals because that's so easy. But why don't you take on that? Because he was being animated that the court has not sought the opinion of psychologists or those who could maybe represent the voice of unborn children, that will they be safe in a same-sex marriage home? Why don't you take on those two questions?
No, this is not about safety. I didn't say that. I think that's
the rights of the child. You
rights
said
of the child from the
Or the
perspective.
interest of the child, let's put it
That's all.
as neutrally as
Safety
we
of the
possibly
child
can.
leads it in a very different direction. I'm not going in that territory at all. Mr. Kirpal knows what I'm talking about. That's not the issue at all here. I'm not on the safety of the child. Well-being is different from safety. Let's not conflict the two.